Hey guys, this is Danny Boy. This time around we'll be using Caden instead of Javik, and as always James. Not that James is particularly powerful, I usually actually forget to use his grenades, which are one of his best abilities, but anyway, so on the planet Sanctum, going to be using the Carnifex pistol, which I just found in my last couple episodes, though I didn't use it, and the Crusader. I just used the Crusader and tested it in my target practice series, and I didn't realize that it actually shoots out a single slug. It's really more like a hunting shotgun. So, though it's really accurate, it's not long range like the Eviscerator is long range. The Eviscerator still shoots out pellets, it shoots out a single slug. So it's just kind of a different Eviscerator, I guess, is what I'm trying to come across. So, yes, this was not a particularly difficult world, though we're facing Cerberus again. There were a lot of areas to get outflanked and a lot of boxes to get stuck in to die. I think I'm going to show all my deaths, even though the vast majority of them were just terrible, terrible examples of failure. I did not perform at my best on this mission. I kind of got frustrated and started just saying, you know what, the hell with it, screw you guys, I'm going to do whatever I want, I don't care. So, you'll be seeing that a little later, if not in this episode, the next. And another problem is I've finally gotten accustomed to using Javik, and so now my key bindings are changing again, and I fumbled those like a million times, which was just great. It's kind of the problem when you do tend to use, you know, just different weapons and different party members frequently. You get accustomed to a set, to a loadout, and then you change things, and it screws everything up. But, so yes, this is the Carnifex pistol. It's a lot like the Phalanx, it's just fires slower and does more damage. They're both very accurate, very powerful. I like the Carnifex a lot. It really packs a punch, but I'd probably rather use the Phalanx most of the time just for the margin of error. But as you can see, the headshots really do devastating damage to these guys. Also, I do use the Crusader quite a bit, and I realize in this video why I stopped using it. That was Cryo Blast from my turret. I just upgraded my sentry turret to have cryo ammo, so that's what that was. It doesn't proc very often, but when it does, it's kind of nice. Someday I'll upgrade my Incinerate to do bonus damage against frozen targets, and I'll probably at that point also be just respeccing entirely, but we'll get around to that eventually. Hopefully I won't beat the game before that opportunity arises. I'm sure I'm getting there. I think 16 hours in at this point. I'd probably be twice as far if I wasn't stopping to make videos every hour or so. But, yes, I realize why I really don't like the Crusader. It's very accurate and whatever, but it fires really slowly, and it doesn't have a scope. So it makes it hard to get shots off at very long ranges. And I even mod it with a choke to make it even more accurate than it was. And the Crusader, oh, nice headshot there. The Crusader really benefits from aiming down the sights. It actually has far reduced spread when you aim down the sight, so something to keep in mind. Same as the Grawl Spike Thrower, if you use that weapon. The grouping of the spikes of the Grawl Spike Thrower are much tighter. It's much tighter when you aim down the sights. So definitely something I would advise to do at pretty much every opportunity. And also, I'm used to having a shotgun that does a lot of damage at short range, and I got a lucky headshot there, but it will prove to be a problem later on where I just whiff, and it fires so slowly and, you know, and whatever that it really proves to be a liability. And eventually just enrages me. Rage. So, also something that I have recently confirmed, I made a shout out to a commenter in a previous episode where they told me that there are bonus skills in the game. Well, I now have actually confirmed that firsthand. Randomly talking to Garrus unlocked armor-piercing ammo as an option. So, that's that. They exist. It is 2, I believe, bonus skills per party member. So for Garrus it would be armor-piercing ammo and proximity mine. James it would be fortification and Carnage, which is great. I very much look forward to using some of these abilities down the road. Kind of sucks for Sentinels, since there's Fortification, there's Defensive Matrix, or whatever it's called for Edie, and there's Barrier, and those all act similarly to Tech Armor, just in different ways, which kind of sucks for them, makes their unique ability a little bit less unique, but then again, like, at least 2 party members got drone in the last game, so I really don't have much sympathy. I had to deal with it, so... And honestly, it was actually kind of fun to have all 3 party members using drones and just having a ton of drones out there at a time anyway. So now it'll just be, if you want a party that has super crazy defense, you know, just with the unique abilities, well, you got it. So yes, I'm now trying to get some shots off with the Crusader, trying it out again, trying to remember, you know, how to use it, and I'm just not getting the headshots. I'm using the wrong abilities at times. When I want to use Reeve, I'm accidentally using Overload, and when I want to use Overload, I'm accidentally using Reeve. I think I finally actually changed their positioning to just switch them to help that. And here we have some high ground, but I'm worried about getting flanked from the left. And again, I have no scope on this thing, so it's just much difficulty. I usually, and it wouldn't be so bad, but I've now gotten accustomed to having a scope when I'm aiming down sights. So now I'm kind of starting to rely on it, which sucks. I hate to get into that position. And usually when I use shotguns, and as you've probably seen, I tend to just shoot them from the hip anyway. So I'm used to just doing that, just getting a quick shot off from the hip, maybe hurting somebody, getting some damage off. And I tend to use these spammier shotguns that where you just, you know, get a shot off, it doesn't really matter. Larger margin of error. Whereas this one has pretty small margin of error, and trying to sabotage that sentry, but I don't think it really worked that well, and I finally just kill it. I waited a bit too long to get the sabotage off, but whatever. So I should be dying pretty soon, maybe not for a little while yet. And most of it was just grenades, me being stuck in an area where I couldn't get around, couldn't get out of there, and just blow up. And usually, though, I should have known better. And here's an example of me being frustrated. Just missing that first shot. Fortunately, got the overload and got the box, got the turret, but I don't like missing. I don't know if you guys have realized this yet, but I really, really don't like missing. One miss frustrates me a lot. And I am not a great marksman. I do not have a particularly great shot or anything. I'm not that accurate. I don't play snipers. But whatever. Should have used an incinerate there to speed that up, but it didn't really matter. Also, ammo conservation becomes a problem on this mission. I do actually run out of ammo for a prolonged period of time eventually, which was quite the problem. To be honest, quite the problem. Really depends on the mission. Some missions, it's not a big deal at all with ammo. Other missions, you just don't get much, so. But yeah, my biggest complaint with the Crusader was more that when I use a shotgun, tend to want to use it at short range anyway. And this weapon is more for long range. And it's still effective at short range, but it doesn't go through shields or barriers very effectively. And it's just kind of a problem. Whereas the Grawl Spike Thrower, another long-range shotgun, is effective at any range. It's incredibly effective at short range, especially just when fired from the hip at short range. Whereas this weapon, not so much. I don't know. Feel free to disagree. Wasn't expecting this. And this is another example of, I just shot you once in the back. It did 4 ticks of damage to you. How are you alive? What the hell? Why am I using this weapon? What just happened? Essentially. And also keep in mind that I do have this modded to do 17% more damage. And I'm using incendiary ammo from James. I actually am now fairly consistently remembering to use it and to equip it. But just like, what the hell was that? You're an assault trooper and you survived like 3 direct hits from the Crusader? And this isn't a spread issue. This weapon shoots out a single slug. If I hit, I hit. I hit with all the damage it can do. I don't know. I don't know. Just
never said it would be easy.
Getting frustrated. And it sort of just builds as the mission goes on to the point that in the next video, I just go suicidal. I don't care anymore. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. If I die, I die. Whatever. I do try to avoid dying, you know? Try to avoid it. Don't really want to make stupid mistakes and do crazy stuff. Doesn't really matter. We're not playing hardcore or anything. But I feel like videos where I die 10 times are really not compelling. And of the 33 videos I've produced so far, I believe I've skipped maybe 3 deaths. I don't die that often. Maybe 5. 5 deaths, where 3 of those deaths I know, because I remember talking about it, were just me taking a shotgun and charging face first into enemies and essentially just purposely dying because I was angry at the time. So I don't really die that often. But whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter either way. I just know that videos of lots of deaths aren't really compelling. Because I've seen them, and I usually think to myself, wow, this is boring. But yes, they are around a corner. I don't like this positioning. I will be trying a different strategy in a second. Because I'm going to die, I think. And actually eventually moving up there. This is another example of trying to get a shot off with this shotgun and just not being able to... And here I die. Yep, couldn't get away from the grenade. Trying to heal while I run, and when you're healing you can't sprint. but I knew that I was going to get gunned down pretty quickly if I wasn't healing. It just didn't work out. So that was a bad position. They had a high ground advantage. They had great cover with a corner. They can use corners too, you know. So now I'm going to try up here. This is where they were. So I'm going to try to just prevent them from moving into this area and just position my parties on either side of this door and dig in here. Doesn't work well. You know, and why is it not going to work well? Well, you'll see in a moment. I think you can probably guess. And here's another miss. Like, why can't I hit moving targets? Why do I suck? Why? And again, can't get into this slit. Why do I suck? And with that, oh, there's a grenade in here. I can't go anywhere. No, and I take cover and I die. Yeah, so why do I die? Because I'm in a box with nowhere to move. And it was right in the middle of the box, so I couldn't take refuge in one of the corners and avoid it. And when I try to leave, of course the game assumes I want to take cover because I'm sprinting. Rage. Rage and indignation. But I'm not going to die for a little while yet. I think I have one more death in this video. And then in the next video, I do some suicidal stuff. And again, like, oh my goodness. It's basically, if you're not getting headshots with this weapon, you're not doing damage, essentially. This weapon does very poor damage against body shots. So you need to get headshots on it. If you're not getting headshots, you're just wasting your time on Insanity. Because it takes 3 shots to kill an enemy at full red bar. And with a shotgun, that's not what you expect to happen. You expect them to be dead in no more than 2 shots. And especially if you're using a more rapid-fire weapon, those 2 shots usually happen quickly. And it doesn't seem to stagger like the other shotguns do. Maybe it does, and I'm just not noticing it, but the other shotguns really seem to stun enemies and make your follow-up shots easier to get off for when you're aiming for center mass. But with this weapon, I mean, maybe it does stagger, but you're aiming for headshots, so now you have to deal with their heads whipping around when they're being staggered and whatever. It's not what I look for in a shotgun. If I want a long-range shotgun, I'm going to be using the Grawl Spike Thrower, and I have a feeling that this will be the very last time I ever use the Crusader. It just does not suit my playstyle at all. Maybe you guys like it a lot, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. If you can get headshots reliably with it, more power to you. But I'm just not a quick shot like that at point-blank range. I usually aim for center mass with a shotgun. I guess it depends. Yeah, I guess it's not totally true. I do often aim for headshots at short range, so I don't know. I guess it depends. Whatever. So I've now switched to the Carnifex, and I'm a little more accurate with that. Number 1, it fires faster. Number 2, I have a scope. That always helps. And I'm kind of just waiting for these guys to approach. I don't really know where they are at this point. I can hear them, but I don't really know where they are. And I probably should have flanked left at this point, because yes, I'm now being attacked. I'm really not in a great defensive position. But there's a bunch of guys in here, and now I'm just like, okay, this is bad. Fortunately, this guy's stupid. There we go. And he just charges in. Makes my life a lot easier than it could have been. But again, just why aren't you dead? Why can't I hit you? Why do I suck so much? This was my first mission of the day, and as it usually goes, first mission is a warm-up. I usually don't do as well as I could. Also, another issue with the Crusader and the Carnifex is the Crusader is really heavy. And the Carnifex is pretty heavy, too, for a pistol. So, my power recharges are a bit lower than I would like. I did find myself waiting a few times. Not much. I mean, it's rare that it happens. But there were a few times where I was waiting on an overload before I could really open up on a guy. Like that guy, for example. So here we go. And I run out of ammo. Of course. Oh, that's my phone. Sorry about that. But yeah, so we're now finally flanking into this area, and I believe this ultimately gets me killed, though it's very shortly after an autosave, so it wasn't a huge deal. I thought I would have to repeat this entire fight over again, but no. So yes, again, an example where they have a high ground advantage, which is bad. It's always bad. It allows them to just nail you with grenades much more than you'd like. They're more accurate with their grenades when they have a high ground. And he's already spat out 2. I'm just dancing from one side to the other of this box. And if I had a good shotgun, I could be flanking him right now, and he would be dead, and he wouldn't be a problem. I actually attempt that in a moment, but the Crusader really isn't a short-range shotgun. And unfortunately, my overload hit that little corner, but I managed to kill him in melee. Get a little more ammo, which I was happy about. Take this guy out pretty easy. And I'm going to die pretty soon, and I think it auto-saved right here, actually.
make it. Just keep this landing pad clear.
Now we're hunkering down in a pretty large area, and I have decent cover. They're not really going to be hitting me from this corner. I didn't know where they were going to spawn from, though. I now see there. And I don't think I would have been hit by that grenade. I think it hit the wall. And now I'm just being shot too many times. In a moment, I'll be spamming Metagel, I think. Maybe that comes up a little bit later. There we go. I like the Carnifex. It's powerful. Its big thing, though, is it just... Considering how small its clip is, it really doesn't do enough damage. I mean, it does really good damage, but it has so few shots. In reserve... And as you can see, that's been quite the problem. I do run out of ammo for it a couple of times. Maybe you should use it like you do in the last game, Mass Effect 2, really save it for hard armor targets rather than just using it as a primary, but I don't know. So I'm going to die pretty soon, and I'll be editing out maybe 2 deaths that were just rage deaths of me charging at enemies and dying very quickly. I do that sometimes to vent. And I'm just being bombarded by too many directions, and spamming Metagel isn't going to keep me alive. There's no cover that I can take to save myself, and that's it. I die. So stay tuned for the rest of this mission in the next episode, and have a good one, guys. See you.